What's up, my piano friends? Zach Evans here, and I want to show you today a jazz improv chord progression that is literally so easy. I bet you $1 million you could learn it in less than a week, even if you've had no piano experience before. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what it sounds like, but first I want to say this is going to look very complicated if you're a beginner. It's going to look hard, it's going to look challenging, but I promise you, once you see how I break it down step by step, how everything that's hard and looks hard is actually way easier to do once you learn how to do it. All right, so here's how it's going to sound at the end. All right, that's the basics. That's me improvising over a very simple chord progression. All right, so in this video, first I'm going to show you the left hand chord progression. Then I'm going to show you how to improvise with the right hand over it, which is actually really simple once you know how to do it. And then I'm going to show you, make sure you stick around, the third step is the fast way to learn the left hand chord progression so you can drill it into your subconscious really fast. And make sure you stick around to this step because if you do, you could literally learn this thing in a fourth of the time, right? Maybe instead of taking you 8 days to learn it, you could learn it in 4 days. Maybe instead of it taking you, 4 weeks to learn it, you could literally learn it in a week. So you could literally learn it in a fourth the time. Then after that, I'm going to show you my 5 what I call money patterns. And I call them that because they're little right hand patterns and riffs that really bring this progression to life. And if you use some of these and implement some of these, they really help kind of add that flair and add that extra oomph to playing this. All right, so let's get started. First things first, I'm going to teach you the left hand chord progression. Now, this looks very complicated, but it is much easier than it looks. So the first step is to play an F major 7th chord. You don't have to know the actual name of the chord. It doesn't matter. All you do is you play an F. Then you simply skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. So it's F, A, C, E. So that's your first chord. Now the second chord, all you do is you move these 2 fingers down 1 note. Now the next step is you move the bottom 2 fingers down a note. And then again, the top 2 fingers down a note. And then the bottom 2 fingers down a note. And then the top 2 fingers down a note. And then the bottom 2 fingers down a note. So you'll notice all we're doing is alternating, moving the top 2 fingers down a note, then the bottom 2 fingers down a note. So the whole thing is going to look like this. Boom, top 2, bottom 2, top 2, bottom 2, top 2, bottom 2. Very easy. All right, so now you have the chord progression. The next step is to get the right hand improvisation. Now this looks difficult, but here's the trick. If you use this chord progression, you can use any white note on the keyboard and it's always going to sound good with this chord progression. Now I'm not going to get into the music theory behind it and extended chords and why this works, but just know if you're using this chord progression, you can play any white note and it'll sound good. So let me just demonstrate that for you. Boom, no matter what, any white note on the keyboard is going to be solid. All right, so that's step 2. Now I'm going to show you how to learn it fast and make sure you stick around because after that I'm going to show you my money patterns, things that sound really cool with the right hand. All right, so step 3, learning it fast. Now, if you're pretty advanced as a piano player, you'll just pick this up, within 5 minutes. If you're a beginner, I promise you can learn this in less than 3 days, guaranteed, if you follow the exact steps I'm going to show you right now. And I know this because I've taught this to a lot of students and it never takes them longer than 3 days, even if they're a beginner. So what you want to do is instead of playing the entire progression, which can be overwhelming, you just want to take the first 2 notes, right? So your first chord, and remember you walk the first 2 fingers down a step. Boom. And just alternate. This. And at first you're going to have to play it and then kind of lift up and kind of find your fingers and then play the second one. And it's going to take a long time. But as you do it, I want you to repeat that 8 times. Boom, boom. Just alternate. That's 1, boom, boom. That's 2 until you do it 8 times. Then we take the next 2 notes. So we just take this that you just played, and then you walk the bottom 2 fingers down a step, like that. So boom, 1, boom, 2. And you alternate that 8 times. Once you get that 8 times, now we're gonna do the first 3 notes. So just 1, 2, 3. Stop, repeat. 1, 2, 3. You're gonna do that 8 times. Every time you wanna focus on accuracy. I don't care how fast you play it, you just wanna get the notes right so you're drilling in the correct muscle memory. Boom. Now we're gonna take the first 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Practice that 8 times. Once we get the first 4 notes, now we jump to the whole progression. So now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. So now once we have this, you're gonna practice that 8 times. Now, if you're a complete beginner, you might have to do this 3 days in a row before it gets drilled in and before you start being able to do it more smoothly and without thinking about it so much. Once you have the left hand in, you want to start adding the right hand. Now, don't start with a super complicated right hand, of course, because that's going to make everything confusing, overwhelming. Start your right hand, 1 note, C, right? And all I want you to do is this. Play the progression and get used to playing your right hand, even though it's just 1 note. Boom. Now, the next step is you're going to take notes, different notes, but still only 1 note per 1 note. So it's going to sound like this. And then a D, and then an E, and then a D, and then a C, and then a D, and then an E. Just practice that until that becomes second nature. And then once that, you can add 2 notes per thing. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so on. Once you get that down, then it's 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. Boom. And once you get to that point, usually you can start just kind of improvising in. And you'll start to get the hang of it more. And obviously, the more and more you practice it, the better you're going to get. All right, now I'm going to talk about my money patterns. But before I do that, I want to say I hope that you're really taking the time to drill in and write before you take the money patterns. Because one of the biggest mistakes is people try to put the money patterns in before they get the basics down. So make sure you got the basics, boom, 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 locked in. And then boom, now I can go to the money progressions and start making it even cooler. All right, so onto the money progressions. The first one is using a blues note. So a blues note in this progression is any E flat on the keyboard. And when you play this note, it'll give it a very bluesy feel. I'll show you what it sounds like. So you might be playing. So notice once I went, it gives it that bluesy sound. Now what you don't want to do is just spam the blues note, right? If I play this. It's too much. It's too much. The blues note is more, use it sparingly, otherwise it loses all of its impact and its influence. So if you use it every once in a while, it has a really cool effect. If you use it all the time, it completely loses that effect and it's not going to be good. All right, so that's the first one is a blue note, any E flat. By the way, I like going E flat D C. For some reason that sounds really cool. All right, next one is using sixths. So this is another thing that looks really impressive, but it's super easy. All you do, take a C to an A, that's a sixth. And if you keep your hand shape and learn the muscle memory, that's a sixth, you can play this anywhere on any white notes, and it's gonna sound good. So here's what it sounds like. See See, it gives it that very loungy jazz feel to it. That's another easy thing to do. And again, once you drill in this muscle memory of just, oh, my hand doesn't move at all, I'm just kind of shifting it around the white notes, then it's a really easy thing to throw in. All right, next thing, my third money pattern is 7th chord rolls. Now this sounds complicated again, but of course it's not. All you do is you take a 7th chord. So remember how we had our first one for the left hand? We're gonna play the same thing with the right hand, right? We're gonna play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. So it just sounds like that. And you can play this on anywhere on the keyboard. But what I like to do is roll these. And what rolling is, instead of playing as a chord, you roll it. And with pedal, it sounds like that. It's kind of just a little like riff, riff off the top. And to practice this, you don't want to practice like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more like you're still playing it as a chord, but you kind of just roll your wrist and it's just a quick, it's one of those things you just kind of have to do it enough till you get the feel of it. I like playing these way up here, and you can't really see where my hand is, but it's just these same notes just kind of transposed up here, and it gives it a very good flare sound. And the best place to add these is at the end of a phrase. So for example, you might play something like this. See, it's just kind of a drink, just kind of a little ending to the phrase, and it can sound really, really cool within the context. All right, that is the third one. Fourth little trick, I call it octave transpositions. All you do is you play any riff, any short 3 to 5 note pattern, and then you play it up an octave and then up another octave. So let's just show you an example. For example, if your riff is... So you see, all I'm doing, I'm playing the riff, and I'm just moving from this C up to this C, and then up to this C. So it's the exact same notes, but you're kind of just playing it up an octave. And what it does is it gives the ear repetition to hang on to, but then it gives the ear something a little bit like slightly different so that it gives the ear something to kind of like a little sparkle to it. It's a little bit higher, and then it's a little bit higher. So that's another good thing to do, octave transpositions. Now the fifth one is what I call 3-note drops. So all you do is you take 3 notes, let's say these 3, and you play them descending. Then you take the next 3 notes, 1 down, and you shift 1 down, and shift 1 down, shift 1 down, and it gives this cascading feel, so it sounds like this. Right? So it gives a very cascading feel. You can use this with any rhythm, right? You could do triplets. You could do a pattern like this. You could do any rhythm is going to work as long as you use these same notes. And with all these, you can kind of mix them together and put them all, kind of like combine them. For example, I could do 6 and do this 3-note drop, and it sounds like this. Right, so I'm using 6, but I'm still doing these 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, and dropping it. Or I could do, I could combine pretty much all the patterns and do a like... Right, so in that one I did the descending triplets, I did 6, I did the blues note, and then I did the little 7th chord roll at the top. So you can see if you just add these little money riffs in every so often, and then the rest of the time you can just improvise and play any white notes. This is a very simple way to get that jazz sound without having to know a ton of music theory. Now, I hope, this is kind of a trick this is kind of a shortcut to learning this stuff without learning everything behind it. But if you like this video, if you like my teaching style, which is very detailed, show you exactly what to do, show you how to add on stuff, I have a whole free Become a Piano Superhuman course. If you want to sign up for that, 100% free, and has everything from scales to left-hand patterns and some more of the fundamentals besides just these kind of trick lessons, if you want to call it that. So if you want to sign up, just click the link and sign up. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. Peace out and happy practicing.